Chapter 5. Big Jan wakes to a thudding headache. Beyond the knocking in his skull, however, someone is knocking at the door. "Quiet!" he moans, covering his ears with his hands. Yesterday comes banging back to him. All the excitement of the show. The crowds, the trucks, the food and the beer. Winter's pale morning streams in through the curtains, and Freeburg's church bells peal in the distance. Sunday. He moans again, kneading his palms that remember yesterday's truck pull. And then he smiles. Again, the knocking. "I'm coming," he grunts, sliding his giant legs off of the bed. Ooh, his head is pounding. "What's it?" He reaches from the bed, all the way across the tiny room and pulls the door open. Little Mikey stands there, light streaming in behind him. "Mikey," grunts Big Jan, putting a hand up against the light. "Where were you yesterday?" He puts his elbows on his knees and sinks his head into his hands. "You missed my pull." The boy doesn't answer. Big Jan looks up through his fingers. Little Mikey drops his backpack next to the door and picks his way across the clothing-littered floor. He lifts the electric kettle and, holding it with two hands, carries it over to the sink. "I lost my mom's envelope," he says in a tiny voice, almost a whisper. He clicks the kettle on, reaches for a cup, looks inside, and takes it to the sink to rinse it. "Huh? What did she say?" Little Mikey shakes his head, rinsing the cup, and then spoons recoffee powder 3 heaps thick into it. He adds 5 sugars and milk. "She told me to leave the house." "Hey?" Little Mikey stares into the cup as the kettle begins to boil. "She told me I must go to Grootstad, to my daddy's house." "What daddy?" "She says my daddy lives in Grootstad." Big Jan peers at him, concerned. He's never seen him like this. So quiet, like a ghost. "Well, how are you going to get there?" "She said I must go to the highway." Little Mikey turns to his friend, tears shining in his eyes. "What must I do?" Big Jan puts a hand out to him, squeezing his shoulder. "Ach, Mikey, you know your mom. Sometimes she's not okay. Maybe she will feel better today." Little Mikey nods. Carefully he lifts the kettle and fills the waiting cup with steaming water. Gingerly he carries it over. Big Jan takes it and sips noisily. "I was wondering, do you think I could stay with you?" Big Jan swallows. "I know your place is small, but I'm small too. I could fit on the floor here. Until my mom is better." "Ach, my little buddy, of course I won't say no. But listen, go home and check with your mama first. You never know. I bet you she changed her mind today." "She said I must never come back." Little Mikey's voice is tiny, lost in the trembling of his shoulders. She didn't mean it. Your mama works hard. She was probably tired." Big Jan shakes his head. "Come now. She'll feel better today. She'll be looking forward to seeing you." Big Jan looks around. He can find no comfort but the cup in his hand. "I think you should drink some coffee and then go down and see her." He points to the curtained window. "It's a new day, Mikey. The sun is up." Little Mikey turns to the window and the sun risen over the cold world out there. "Come. Have some coffee." Little Mikey shakes his head. "Have something to eat then." Big Jan heaves himself up and rummages through the litter strewn across his counter. "Here." He takes a bite of a half-eaten pepper steak pie, then passes the remainder to the boy. "You need some food. Everything is worse on an empty stomach." Little Mikey takes the pie. "Go down to your mama and then come back here and let me know what she says. Then we make a plan." The big man holds out the flat of his meaty palm. Little Mikey touches it with his own. Go quickly, then let me know later what she says. Big Jan drops back down into his messy bed, groaning. He closes his eyes. Little Mikey turns to go. Mikey, take some money there. Bring me a burger when you come back, please. I'm hungry, man. Little Mikey turns to a side table next to the door. A red money note and some change is scattered on it. He scoops it up. Okay, see you, Jan. See you, Mikey, mutters Big Jan, turning over onto his side. Be careful out there. Little Mikey moves through the lower streets of Freeburg. His look is fierce. My mama does love me, he whispers, and I love her too. After all, how many times did she hold him close and whisper stories to him in the dark of the cabin, while the distant lights of the highway played across the wall? And how many times did she tell him so, as she dressed him? Bark, bark, bark! Little Mikey jumps at the blast of sound. He whirls, frightened, his hands up, knowing in a flash that he's made a mistake. Bulwer Street is full of dogs. Bark, bark, bark! A pit bull is glaring at him from behind a chicken wire fence. The dog is squat and full of muscle, the wide mouth open, the teeth bared, the legs ready to spring. Little Mikey stands frozen, but the dog does not move. Instead, little Mikey notices that the tail is wagging. The picture changes. Little Mikey cocks his head to the side. Suddenly the snarl becomes a smile, and violent eyes turn friendly. The tail hammers back and forth, the dog shivering with pleasure. Good morning, Pitty, ventures little Mikey carefully. How are you today? Bark! Her voice is one of greeting. Carefully he reaches out, touching the wire fence. The dog wriggles against it, and then a wet tongue snakes out to wash his fingers. You are a lovely girl, a friendly girl. Bark! You're a beautiful girl. She prances before him, wriggling one way and then the next against the fence. Here, girl, croons little Mikey, as carefully he pushes Jan's piece of pepper steak pie through the wire links. Slurp! The smiling girl has swallowed it. Her tongue snakes out for another wet lick. Bark, bark, bark! She thanks him, her tail wagging. Thank you, whispers little Mikey, touching her wet nose through the wire. You are a lovely girl. Little Mikey is humming when he enters the fields around his mama's cabin. Hello, he calls to a worker from Mr. Langeveld's farm on his way to church. The man waves in greeting. He begins to walk faster, excited to see his mama. Good day, he nods to one of Mr. Langeveld's goats stripping leaves from a thorn bush beside the path. The animal curls its tongue around the twig, seeming to wink at him with its horizontal eye. Little Mikey begins to run, ignoring the pounding of his ankle, his mama's cabin just visible in the distance. Morning, he is about to whisper to a crow flitting above him, but something about the cabin ahead stops him short. He peers ahead, slowly making sense of what he's seeing. There is a man sitting on the little top step of his mama's house, smoking a cigarette. Little Mikey watches. He sees movement through the window. There is another man inside. The man smoking jumps up suddenly as the door behind him opens. He jams his cigarette in his mouth and turns as a mattress appears in the open doorway, being pushed through from inside. The smoking man takes the edge of the mattress and begins helping the other maneuver it out of the door. Little Mikey steps forward, unsure, and then a crash from inside, the sound of a breaking plate. Hey! What are you doing? The man with the cigarette turns, an alarmed look on his face. That's my mama's mattress! The cigarette man gestures to his partner, asking him to wait, and puts his side of the mattress down so that it rests on the top step. What's the trouble? He peers down at the little boy. This is my mama's stuff, little Mikey shouts, pointing. Why are you taking it? A look of concern creases the man's forehead. His black moustache twitches. Why are you taking my mama's mattress? The man kneels, putting a hand out to stop the boy from rushing up the steps. His touch is kind. He speaks gently. "We're clearing this out, little man. There's a new tenant coming in." "But what do you mean? Where's my mama?" The man looks to his partner, who looks away. Softly, the man says, "I'm sorry, eh? They took your mama away." "But why?" The man shrugs. Kindly, gently, he says, "I think your mama must have been behind on rent. I'm sorry." "Where is she?" "The police took her. They'll be taking her to Grootstad." "Grootstad?" "Yes, they transport straight to Grootstad nowadays." The man glances towards Freeburg Hill and its houses glinting in winter's sun. "Is there somewhere you can go?" Little Mikey shakes his head. "Have you got a daddy? A uncle?" Little Mikey springs forward, trying to get inside, but his foot catches the step and he trips, bumping against the mattress and nearly falling in the mud. The man grips him with a strong hand, his cigarette still dangling from his lip. "Come now. Your mama has gone for a little while. Call the police exchange. Maybe they can tell you when her transport will arrive in Grootstad. They'll be leaving on the highway very soon now. I'm sure she'll be all right." Little Mikey shakes his head, not knowing what to say. "Here." A money note appears between the man's fingers. Gently he pushes it down into Mikey's trouser pocket. "Get yourself some breakfast. Everything is better on a full stomach." Little Mikey does not budge. Instead, he stares at his white tennis shoes and the wood of the cabin steps beneath them. "Come on, we've got a lot of work to do." The man gives little Mikey a gentle push. "Go to one of your mama's friends. She can call you there." He pushes him a little more. The little boy shrugs off the hand. He runs down the steps and stops on the path and turns, pointing an angry finger at them. "You guys are stealing!" he shouts. And then he runs.